is fundamentally different. We've never had a situation where floor crossers have changed the nature of the parliament that Canadians have elected.
Gang, what's up? Aaron, Canadian Looney. Smash the like, hit subscribe. We're going to pop over to Power Play with Vassy Kapelos. She's got Conservative House Leader Andrew Scheer, one of the funniest guys on Parliament Hill. Is he going to be cracking any jokes here? Vassy's not going to be very funny, I wouldn't suspect. Let's take a peek.
Hi, Mr. Scheer. Welcome back. Good to see you. Thanks for making the time.
Great to be here.
The argument, as I understood it, that you were making today essentially is that committee should not reflect that there is a majority of the seats in the House right now for one party. How does that make sense?
Well, the convention, the long-established practice of the House of Commons is that the parties get together after an election, and based on the results of Canadians' expression at the ballot box, we decide how many MPs from each party will be on the committee. What the Liberals are now doing is saying they're signaling that they're going to use their newfound majority in the House to fundamentally change that. So that's unprecedented. We've never had a situation where midstream, kind of halfway through a parliament or deep into a parliament, the government takes advantage of a situation, because we've never had a government change from a minority to a majority because of backroom deals and secret negotiations. So what we're saying is, hey, let's at least preserve the makeup that reflected the will of the Canadian people at the general election, at committees, so that the opposition can continue to do things like investigate corruption and waste and mismanagement, that we can order the production of papers. That's one of the powers committees have, is that we can force the government to hand over documents. We saw that in the last parliament many, many times. So we believe that if the Liberals try to change this, that they're going to be tightening control in parliament specifically to avoid investigations and scrutiny.
So there's a lot to pick apart there. The first is this idea that it's never happened before. I mean, the reason that this would be unprecedented is because the government has never moved following by-elections and floor crossings. I know you have a different characterization, but in floor crossings, from a minority to a majority. So it's only unprecedented because it hasn't happened. Like, there's no rule against it. And there are, in fact, standing orders that say very specifically the committee shall take into consideration the membership of the parties in the House and the proportions thereof.
Well, first of all, I should highlight the fact that every seat that the Liberals picked up in the from the by-elections were seats they already held. They weren't pickups. They weren't new seats. So it's not that they can say, well, we got to that majority because of by-elections. They held on to what they had because of the by-elections. The difference in the minority versus majority is because individual MPs decided to make secret deals or through backroom negotiations that were not ever put to the Canadian people. And that's what changed the makeup of the, basically going from a minority to a majority. What we're saying is, yes, this is unprecedented. This has never happened before, but the precedent of arriving at consensus agreements on how many people are on committee from each party, that has always been a reflection of the election, the general election. What Canadians have said at the ballot box determines the makeup of committees based on the proportionality in the House. So if those proportions change throughout a parliament because of things like secret deals and floor crossings, that shouldn't fundamentally change the nature of the parliament that Canadians elected, that now the opposition won't be able to pursue investigations, order the production of papers and documents and things like that.
So again, a couple of things, because the proportions are reflective of individual MPs, right? And their makeup, the parties that they belong to. Like, those MPs, you may, again, characterize it as nefarious, though when Leonel Alislav crossed into the party when you were leader, you didn't. But they did so of their own, they say of their own volition, and they represent the constituents they represent. They've now switched parties. Like, that's what changed the proportions. The standing orders say the committees should reflect the proportions of the House. Again, like, I don't understand why that doesn't make sense.
Because what we're saying is that they should reflect the proportion of the House that Canadians elected. And that's what we saw on election day. That's what determined that the Liberals did not have a majority. And I think there's a world of difference. People have crossed party lines going back generations, usually on matters of principle. They have suddenly realized that the party that they ran for, it doesn't reflect their views, or there's a big decision point, like when Liberals campaigned on getting rid of the GST. They broke that promise. Some Liberals left that Liberal caucus on principle. What we're dealing with now is nothing on principle. We're dealing with individual MPs who have put their own personal careers ahead of what they promised Canadians in the last election, their voters in the last election, and that is fundamentally different. We've never had a situation where floor crossers have changed the nature of the parliament that Canadians have elected. So our message today is, look, the makeup, the composition of committees were determined because of the democratic expression of Canadians. Let's respect that. We're focused, Conservatives are focused on affordability measures. We're trying to, we had a motion this week to eliminate the entire gas tax for the entire year. We're proposing ideas to fix the housing crisis that Liberals have caused, to undo Liberal bail laws that have caused a crime spike across the country. What we're calling on the Liberal government to do is not to use parliamentary time to give themselves more power. Don't use a government motion to fundamentally alter the nature of committees. If Mark Carney does this, he will be proving to be just another Liberal, that he's more interested on protecting himself against scrutiny and transparency than actually addressing the needs of Canadians.
So those MPs that you referenced that you say aren't doing this on principle, they say they are doing it on principle, that they left your party because their principles no longer align with it, and they more so now align with the government. And to your point about, committees and sort of the way in which, again, you're ascribing kind of a nefarious intent of the government if they are to switch them, are you saying that if
Vassy, stop being so trashy. Smash the like, hit subscribe. Let's get back to the video.
the Conservatives were to form a majority under any method, that you would not want committees to reflect that?
No, if we get our majority from the Canadian people, then obviously the makeup of committees will reflect that. I would take some of the floor crossers at their own words. You know, Marilyn Gladu specifically said that this was what's best for her personally. Those were her words, not mine. Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party outlined our vision, our platform. All those MPs ran under that banner, knowing exactly what they were committing to their voters for. They committed to fight against liberal inflation. They committed to fight against high liberal deficits that drive up prices at the grocery store. They committed to try to undo liberal bail laws that caused a crime wave across the country, and to undo liberal anti-development bills. They then made a decision to abandon those commitments that they made to their own voters. What we're saying now is that should not fundamentally change the nature of this parliament. The opposition in the last parliament exposed a great deal of liberal corruption. You'll remember the Green Slush Fund, where there was millions of dollars that liberal insiders funneled into their own companies. We saw the Arrive scam scandal, where massively inflated contracts were given to select vendors. We saw the Indigenous procurement scandal. All of that was able to be exposed and highlighted for the Canadian people.
Who got in trouble for that again?
Because the opposition had the power to force the government to hand over documents, officials to testify. And if Mark Carney uses his newfound majority, the first order of business after getting it, to undo what the Canadian people did at the ballot box, that is a sign that he is just another Liberal, that he's not actually focused on the needs of Canadians, he's more focused on consolidating power.
Just another Liberal.
Are you exaggerating, though, the degree to which the opposition would be neutered should the composition of the committees change a little bit? Because I also remember back to 2017 when there was like a March to May multi-month filibuster the Conservatives and the NDP participated in when it came to parliamentary reform. You were able to delay a lot of stuff that way. I remember SNC, the scandal around SNC, and the degree to which opposition presence on committees was able to force testimony from key figures like Jody Wilson-Raybould at the time, and Gerald Butts, and the list goes on. That entire scandal was essentially exposed and litigated through committee during a majority government. Like, you still have a lot of powers as opposition on these committees. The government can
I don't really understand what Vassy's trying to do here. Come on, Vassy, come on.
Can use time allocation to shorten the duration of some of that. I get it that it's not exactly what you're experiencing right now, but that is their right with the most seats in the House.
Well, I would say it's their right based on what Canadians vote for on election day. It's not their right to fundamentally change
But who else is saying that? What rules are saying that?
Well, you know, just because there's not a specific rule written against it doesn't make it the right thing to do. I think we can all agree on that. Sometimes it takes an unprecedented situation to lead Parliament to write a rule, and what we're seeing is unprecedented. We've never seen the Canadian people elect a minority government. Backroom deals and negotiations mean that a government suddenly has majority powers. That's what the Liberals have done. That's never been done before. You are right to point out that even when there is a majority government and the Conservatives are in opposition, we are able to highlight and litigate some of these things. But it takes a great deal more effort. It means that the Liberals are often able to kill certain investigations before they even start. We're seeing this right now where the Liberals are filibustering against an ethics investigation into the finance minister, Liberal finance minister Sean Payne's connection with the Alto high-speed rail, $90 billion project that his partner is vice president at the Crown Corporation that's receiving all this funding. The Liberals are filibustering that to prevent an investigation. We've seen even in that majority government that you highlighted many attempts to get documents, to get papers, to get to the bottom of decisions or where money went, and the Liberals voted those down. So yes, we have proven capable of exposing that, but the bar gets raised even higher when the Liberals have a majority on those committees, because so many times they can just nip these in the bud and vote against production orders and various motions before those investigations even start.
Why is it okay, though, for your party to use a filibuster when it sees that, things are deserving of one, in your view, or deserving of delay, and not okay for the Liberals to do so?
Well, first of all, I reject the premise. If you're referring to certain bills at the Justice Committee, we were saying, let's pass the things that we can agree on. Liberals were fighting against bail reform.
But I'm referring to filibuster use, like you've used it before multiple times.
No, but there is a big difference between highlighting and litigating bad Liberal laws and legislation and blocking investigations. It is the right of every member of Parliament to speak to bills, to slow things down if we believe that those are bad ideas, and we want to give time for the Canadian people to understand that and to propose alternatives, versus specifically not wanting to be investigated. And that's what the Liberals are doing. When the Liberals misuse Canadian dollars, when they waste it or when they funnel it to their friends, that is such a violation of trust. That is, the Canadians don't have a choice when they pay their taxes. The government forces them to pay their hard-earned money in the form of taxes. When Liberals then take the money that they've taken from Canadians and waste it or funnel it to their friends, they should not be able to use a majority in the House to block those kinds of investigation. And that is a world of difference to when parliamentarians litigate legislation, debate legislation, put forward alternatives. The investigation to Liberal scandals and corruption is important. It's part of our democracy that the opposition holds this government to account. Every Canadian is served.
But again, that won't be neutered.
When the opposition,
you have been able to do that in majority Liberal government before.
But it will be drastically reduced by what the Liberals are doing. Right now, it's a simple majority vote at committee. Because the opposition has a majority of the seats of the committee, we can get these types of investigations started. We can order the production of papers and documents that help inform parliamentarians and expose Liberal scandals. When they get the majority, it means that we will not be able to do that we will have to use other means, time in the House. It just raises the bar to a point that the Canadian people did not want. The Canadian people wanted a robust opposition. They voted for the strong.
Enough is enough, right?
Strongest opposition in Canadian history. They wanted to put a tight control on the Carney government after 11 years of massive deficits, driving up inflation, devaluing paychecks. They wanted a strong limit. Well, those are seats the Liberals already held. The Canadian people in the general election, when every Canadian voter had the right to weigh in on it, elected a parliament with a very strongest in history, conservative opposition, minority parliament, that tight control on the Carney Liberals after 11 years of driving down our economy and driving up prices. That's what Canadians voted for. And now if the Liberals try to stack the deck on these committees, they will be upending what the Canadian people demanded at the ballot box.
Okay, I'm out of time. I got to leave it there. Mr. Scheer, appreciate your time as always. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll wrap it up right there, gang. Aaron, Kennedy, and Looney, let me know in the comments what you think about Conservative House Leader Andrew Scheer. Does he make you chuckle? Are you laughing at Vassy being so trashy? That was a brutal interview. What is she doing? That's it. We'll wrap it up. Aaron, Kennedy, and Looney. We'll catch you in the next video. Thank you for watching this one. Get your Canadian federal politics right here.